Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Kajidori.
Hey, welcome back to another very special episode. And today, I'm joined on the show by Janene Liston. Now, if you are like me, you probably at one point struggled with pricing your shops or your products or your coaching products or whatever it is that you get to bring to the public. So if you are in that position, you want to listen into the conversation we are going to have today, because you're going to figure out how to do it in style, and you're going to do it effectively in a way that serves you, serve your customers, and also ultimately serve the bottom line. With me today, like I said, is Janene Liston. Janene, thanks again for joining us and agreeing to be on the show today.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
You know, you and I were catching up before we started recording here, and you pointed out how long you've been doing this and helping others do this, which I thought was incredible. For those who are yet to discover your work, especially those in my audience today, do give us a bit of who you are, what you've done, and some of your success stories.
Yeah. So I am American-born, living in Switzerland. I've been here for about 20 years. My career started as a structural engineer, and then after a few years, I switched to product management, which is where I discovered pricing, but learned by doing, let's say.
Yes.
and then in 2004, I was hired as a global pricing manager. And ever since then, it's been all pricing all the time. But I had a very funny conversation with one of my bosses about 6 months after I started. He came to me and he confessed, "I don't really know what you should be doing." And I said, "Yeah, me either." Let's solve this problem. And I went and got a certificate as a certified pricing professional, actually one of the first, I think about 60 people or so worldwide to have the CPP designation. And since then, like I said, it's been all pricing all the time. I did that in the corporate world until 2015, and then 2017 started doing it as my own business, focusing on small businesses.
Well, we're glad you are doing this and you're on the show, because I know firsthand how critical this area is. I'll tell you a fun story. We got it wrong in the beginning when I started doing my outsourcing. And within 2 years into it, I nearly closed what was the most profitable business, simply because we did not know how to price our virtual assistant services. That was about 10 years ago now. If I had not found a way of pricing effectively, I wouldn't be having a business today. So this subject we are talking about, if you're listening, you want to take notes, because it will serve your business like it did mine. If not that, it will help you be more profitable. So for those who are getting started with pricing, or perhaps they are launching their coaching program, which most of the listeners are doing right now, what are the areas you would highly recommend they place the focus on?
Okay. First of all, start with pricing early on. Don't wait until the last minute. I see this both with new businesses and when mature businesses are doing launches. They're like, "Oh, we can do that just before we send it out to market." And what happens very often is then they end up developing something or bringing something to market, not being able to price it in the way that they wanted, and then trying to force something on the market that isn't fit for purpose. So start early on. That would be the first thing. The other thing I would say is pricing is rooted in a deep understanding of the customer. They are the judge and jury about what the value is, and therefore going to make the ultimate decision about what they're going to pay. So you've got to put the customer at the beginning of your price setting thought process.
Amazing. Talk me through that whole process of extracting the value or constructing the value so you can price it.
Yeah. So when we talk about value, there's lots of different areas where we can look at the value. And what we want to do is we want to be able to quantify it so that we can put our price in context. So when you quantify it, there are 4 areas generally that you can look for. You can ask yourself these questions. How do I help my customer reduce their risk? Yeah, you're going to want to write this down. How do I help them improve the quality of their life, their business, what they offer, whatever the context is? How do they help them improve quality? How do I help them be more competitive? And or how do I help them save time or money?
Amazing.
Yeah, and quantifying those is the hard part, but that's also going to be where you're going to make the biggest difference in your business. Because if you can say, I can save you 27 hours a year or $5,000, every 6 months, then it puts your price into context, and then you understand how your price relates to the value that you can bring your customers or your clients.
I love what you just said there, because what immediately comes to my mind is if you know these 4 things, you can literally use them in your marketing sales speech, that my product is going to do this, and in return, you're just going to invest a little bit. If you are to measure the benefit you're going to get out of my product compared to your investment, you are the one who's getting the biggest win out of this.
Correct.
Amazing.
Correct.
Please just mention those 4 things again for those who may have missed it. So, how you
So we have risk.
Yes.
How do I help my customer or client reduce risk? How do I help them improve quality? How do I help them be more competitive? And how do I help them save time or money?
Oh, this is pure gold right there. Guys, if you put this in your sales pitch, you've got it done. In fact, I am going to be putting this more clearly in my new training program that I've put together, Janene. Awesome. So let's talk about, perhaps what to do after you have set all these things up.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for asking this question, because most people, one of the biggest myths in pricing is people think once they find a price that they're all done. They can kind of sit back and relax and not do anything else. And you're right. Once you have set that price, there are 2 very big things that you have to do. You have to go get the price, which is how you communicate around your pricing and the activities that you do or the actions you take with your pricing. And then you also have to manage those prices over time. Those 2 steps, it's like playing tennis, but not following through when you hit the ball, or golf, not following through when you hit the ball. If you just stop when the ball, when the club or the racket makes contact, most of us who've played a sport, we know the ball goes all over the place, right? Well, it's the same with your pricing. If you're not following through with setting or with getting and managing, then you're missing 2 very important steps.
Yes.
My opinion, my experience tells me pricing is about 70% human psychology and about 30% mathematics. So if you don't like math, you'll be happy to hear that. And that's why the getting piece, the value communication piece, how to handle objections, how to present the price on the landing page or in your offer makes such a big difference in terms of whether or not people or how people perceive the price that you deliver.
Yeah. I love that. I think, people inherently knows that there's psychology involved. How can a business owner, perhaps like me, intentionally use this knowledge to selling more? Talk to me as, from a trainer perspective. I'll tell you even now what program I put it together, because everyone will know about it very soon. So I'm training people how to start, scale, and monetize their podcast. Because you know this, that we are now on Clubhouse, and there's a huge demand of people wanting to use or to start their podcast. So I thought, you know what, we've been doing this for a while. How about I create a program and just tell people what I'm doing so that we help people. So that's what we've done. We created it. It's all ready to sell. Very difficult because we've never sold something like that before, other than my coaching program and all that. So how can I position it, including the psychology we've talked about, to really get it going, get people into the program?
Right. So one of the things is that if, people tell me quite often, they're like, oh, this value communication piece, it's just blah, blah, Janene. It doesn't actually have any impact. And I always tell people that actually, even if you're selling the exact same thing as someone else, if you are better at the value communication, you have a competitive advantage. That's how important it is. And I can give you a very quick example.
Yes.
So you're walking down the street and you come across two lemonade stands. One says lemonade 25 cents. The other says lemonade 50 cents. Which one would we buy? Right? Yeah. Most of us, if we're walking down the street and two kids have lemonade stands, we might be nice and buy one of each because, it's under $1. So we do that. But what if the one that said lemonade 50 cents also said clean water included? Right? Now, sold. It changes your entire perspective of the value of what's being delivered, not just of that one, but of the other one. Yeah. And let's say you were on the streets of Acapulco or in Mexico City or something like that, where they're known for, water that's not always the cleanest. What would you perceive now? And which would you be willing to pay for now?
Yes. Yes.
So you're right in that the value communication is critical. And you have to understand how to use it effectively for you, but also how to make sure that you're not doing things that are negatively impacting how people perceive what they're paying. So a simple example here is if you have text on a page and you have a price, let's say the price is, 500 pounds, for example. And in the text next to where your price is, you talk about the 5 people who did this and the 7 times you did that. Well, 3 or 5 and 7 are much smaller numbers than 500. So it will automatically make your price look higher, or they'll perceive it as higher from a psychology standpoint. Now, this is going on at a subconscious level. So if you were going to have numbers near your price, you want to make sure that they're much bigger than your price.
Okay.
It sounds silly, but studies have shown time and time again that this has an influence, and it's at a subconscious level. So people don't necessarily, they're not thinking, oh, that says 3, this says 500, this must be too expensive. But it's happening at a subconscious level.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Is this information that I think every business owner needs to know? I'm going to jump ahead of myself here, but okay, for those listening right now that want to take up on your training programs or reach out to you, where can they find you?
Yes, they can find me at thepricinglady.com.
Yes.
So right now we'll have a new website coming out soon, but this link will redirect you to wherever you need to go. And thepricinglady.com is the easiest thing to remember.
Amazing. Amazing. And we are going to put it also below this training program, this audio, so that people can take advantage of that. Now, let's help people here, Janene. Those that have failed, like me, I'm hearing that I should have done this. Maybe, I know for a fact that I'm going to reach out so you can help us restructure what we are doing here, because it's everything. You get your price right, you can focus on other things, and this will keep on growing. Yeah. For those like me who feel strongly that things are not right, and something has to be done, where can they start over again? How can they get started?
Okay. So first of all, if you don't mind me saying this, I have a self-assessment scorecard on that website, which is a great place to start because you can do that and it will help you to understand which areas you need to focus on first. Now, depending on the business, some people will need to focus on the customer. Some people will need to get more clarity on their offers. Sometimes people need a strategy. I would guess the vast majority of businesses out there don't actually have a pricing strategy. Or they don't know if they do, which to me means not having one. Yeah. And I'm not talking about, am I low price and whatever, but understanding a pricing strategy will tell you how you can use pricing to help you reach your business goals.
Can we explore that briefly? Maybe this would be a great gift that anyone who's listening and doesn't have this structure can say, okay, from that episode, I got my pricing structure to the T. Walk us through that whole process.
Walk you through the process of developing a pricing strategy. Okay.
Correct. Yes.
So there's 5 steps that I take people through. First is customer. You're going to hear this a lot in this episode. So that message gets through loud and clear.
Yes.
Then we look at, once we know who we're targeting, then we can figure out what we're going to offer them.
Awesome.
Then we can understand the value that we're delivering through those offers to that specific group. Then we can look at the marketplace and check our position. Where are we relative to the others? And does that make sense? And then we can look at the cost and profit picture and make sure, okay, I have a viable business model here or not. I need to make adjustments. So I take people through those 5 steps in order for them to understand. Because for me, this is a really important point. For me, pricing isn't just an activity you do. It's a way of being or behaving in your business. It's about understanding how the decisions that you make in your business affect profitability. Because who you target, what you offer, the value you deliver, the competitive environment, and your cost and profit check, all of that influences your profitability.
Amazing.
So if you change those things or they adjust over time, then your profit changes as well.
Yes. Does this process take 6 months to complete, or is one that within a session people can be clear on it?
Right. So it depends on the business and the complexity of the business. So if it's, so some businesses require what's called a pricing framework. So they're selling the same products or services across the globe to lots of different target customers. And so then they need sort of a matrix or this pricing framework. Then it gets more complicated. But the strategy, we can do a simple one. We can do, it's kind of like a strategy map, or we can do a more in-depth strategy. And the map you can do in a single session. Of course, it's not as in-depth. And then the other one we do over for one-to-one coaching, we can do over 3 or 4 sessions. And for a bigger business, it can take even longer depending on the situation. But it really depends on the business is what I'm trying to say.
Amazing. Well, guys, if you are getting a lot of value from this, here's what I want you to do. Reach out to us and let us know 2 things that you're learning from here. I would love to hear from you, and I will pass that information to Janene as well as feedback. I know for a fact that I'm enjoying this and taking lots of notes from this session as well. And Janene, let's talk about you. As a business owner, because we've got business owners in our community. And one of the things we love to hear is how other business owners are thriving in an environment of competition, in an environment where there is a lot against them. How are you doing it?
So I would say I am in a fortunate situation that there are not a lot of people who do what I do, which is a nice situation to be in. So in terms of course, I have plenty of competition because there are lots of other things that business owners are prioritizing or spending their money on, right? So it doesn't mean that there's no competition. It just means when it comes to pricing, there are a much fewer number of us out there than there are. So that's a benefit that I have and something that I enjoy very much. I guess one of the things that I have struggled with is most people don't even know there are pricing experts out there. Yeah. Which has been a particular challenge for me when it comes to having started my business and getting the word out there. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy doing these podcast shows, because it just helps me to help other people understand that there is help. Because quite frankly, nobody ever pulls us aside in school and says, hey, Janene, 30 years from now, when you start your business, this is how you're going to price your products or services.
No.
Nobody ever teaches us that.
Yeah. And oftentimes, Janine, you think about pricing, like you rightly said earlier on, right before you launch the thing and say, oh, so how much are we going to sell this for? Not because you want to do it that way, but there are other things vying for your attention before you launch it. But I'm glad we are having you here, and we are listening to you, many of my audience here who are business owners. So you will get exposure in that way. Anything that you wish as a business owner that you knew about before you got started in your business? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I do actually. I think there's two things I'd like to mention. One is that I assumed that starting your own business was like a career journey. It was like a career development journey. What I learned is it's a personal journey. Yeah. So in many ways, it's about me becoming this person over time that I need to be, especially coming from having been an employee prior to that my entire life. There's a lot of shifts that you have to make in that journey, in that process. And I think you're constantly developing, but it ended up being more of a personal journey than a career journey. That's one thing. And then the other thing was I never imagined that I would invest in myself so much as I have since I started a business. When I was working away, and I was, going on vacation, doing activities and friends, but I very rarely invested in myself as a person. Yeah. From time to time I did. But when you have your own business, you can't, it's very hard to do it all by yourself. I know there are people who probably achieve that, but I would guess the vast majority of people had help along the way. I like to think of Zig Ziglar has a quote. He says, if you see a turtle on a fence post, you can be sure he didn't get there by himself.
That's right.
I love that quote. It's a great image. You just see this turtle stuck on the fence post. Anyhow, I digress. And so I think it's important to understand, that you do have to invest in your business. And there will be times maybe when you feel it's risky, and other times you'll feel it's less risky. And you have to make those judgment calls about, what is the next thing that is going to bring my business to the next level, or to the next point that it needs to get to.
I love that.
Being willing to do that. Sorry.
Totally. I love that you mention it, because a lot of business owners or entrepreneurs, rather, they are go-getters. So sometimes they want to do it themselves, but the reality is, you have to invest in a coach, in a mentor, in somebody who's done it, so they can show you all the shortcuts, and you avoid the pain, the emotional roller coaster that we all are very accustomed to it.
It's also hard to see things in your own business. Yeah. You have, I say all the time, like if I write copy for someone else, value communication copy, if I do something for someone else, it's so easy and obvious. But when I try to do it for myself, it seems so much more difficult.
It does. It does. Absolutely. I'm glad you're pointing this out. And for those listening, perhaps you've been considering getting a mentor in whatever area of your business that is. Hear it from Janine, and also from me. You truly need to have somebody, on your corner, somebody who sees things that you don't see. I think it is Les Brown who said, you cannot see the frame when you're in the picture. Somebody has to be outside who will be able to see that. And that's why we've got the pricing strategies to come in. So if you're looking to look at your prices, or, you were thinking, am I doing this right? Maybe now is the time to have somebody come in and check out what's going on. And you'll be glad that you did, because once you set that thing right, it becomes more profitable. You position yourself as an authority, and your bottom line increases. I'm excited about talking about this. Just awesome. So how do you go about identifying a mentor to work with? Because that's another big one for.
Oh yeah, that is it is a tough one. I think sometimes it's just proximity. Who shows up at a given time, who has the right message for you. One thing I love to do, and I have to confess, I didn't plan to say this, but I have to confess, just before we got on this call, I was listening to some of your podcast episodes, and I listened to the one with Doug is it Doug Brown?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Amazing.
Fantastic episode.
Oh.
Great guy. And I thought, I need to talk to this guy and see what we can do together. And so I think listening to podcasts is actually a great way to be exposed to people who are to the people who are out there and to different experts that can help you in different ways. Because of course there are, many, there are myriad of us out there,
Yes,
people who can help you. And it can feel overwhelming sometimes to find the ones, focused in what you need or focused, or even you don't know what you need. And then you hear a podcast, you're like, oh, wow, I might be able to benefit from that as well. So I think there's a proximity, but then also using your tools by going and listening to podcasts or asking for referrals even, or both. Those are the types of things that can really help.
Oh, I love that, for sure. By the way, you can have contact with Doug. He's a good friend of mine. He's a coach to coaches,
Yeah.
It's crazy. We had a laugh with him. I said, so who do you coach? He said, anyone who makes just over $1 million a year. And I said, well, that's less than 5% of the people who are listening to my show. And he said, well, you need to improve that. He's a great guy. You love having a conversation with him. So I too agree with what you're saying, that referrals and listening to podcasts like this, you identify the people that can help you greatly. So thank you for that. Now, final thoughts. We're coming toward the end of our time here together. Is there anything about pricing that you wish business owner needs to know, but often they don't, that we haven't talked about already?
Yeah. So one of the most important things is that there are only 4 things that affect profit in any business. And pricing is the most impactful profit lever. So you've got price, you've got volume, you've got fixed costs, and you've got variable costs. Those are the only 4 things in any business that affect profitability. And pricing has a bigger impact on your profit than the other 3. And when you understand that, then you see pricing in a different perspective. So there's actually a McKinsey study called The Power of Pricing, I believe is what it was called. And they showed with the group of companies they looked at, that on average, a 1% increase in price led to an 8% increase in profit, which is huge.
It is,
right?
Yes.
And depending on, I've been in different industries, I've seen anything from like 6 or 7% up to 15, 16%. It's significant. What is also significant is that cuts both ways. So if those businesses were to lose 1% in price, they would lose 8% in profit.
Wow.
So what does this tell us? This tells us that if we're putting our energy, our effort, and our time into finding ways to lower the price, we're not doing what's right for our business in most cases. We should be putting our time, effort, and energy into either holding prices or getting them up over time. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. But one of the things I do in my webinars is I ask people to make 2 lists. Yeah. One, all the ways they can think of to reduce the price, and another, all the ways they can think of to increase the price. And guess which one is harder for them? The second one.
Yes. Wow. Now, this is pure gold, what you're sharing here. Thank you, Janene. Well, Janene, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you here. And we just talked about the impact on your profit. Any final thoughts or maybe one closing part?
Okay. So the last thing I'd like you to leave you with is that the price is the biggest profit lever you have in your business. There are only 4 things that affect profitability: price, volume, fixed costs, and variable costs. And of those 4 things, price is by far the most impactful. It doesn't matter what kind of business you have. This is all you've got to work with, is those 4 things. Yeah. And what's interesting, McKinsey did a study back in 2003, and they looked at this, and for the S&P 1500 companies at the time, what they found was that a 1% increase in price led on average to an 8% increase in profitability. which is huge. So my point here is every 1% counts in your business. And when you understand that, it changes what you do with pricing in your business as well.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. This drives home the point that you need a pricing strategist to help you in your business, because you could be leaving money on the table, or you could be losing money from the table one way or the other. So you might as well get it done while you can. And I highly recommend that. In fact, I'm sure, Janene, you and I are going to have to talk about this, because I'm all for implementation while you remember things. So guys, if you at that stage in your business and you're considering relooking at your price, don't do it alone. Maybe you can just invest a little bit of time getting to know amazing individual, Janene, that is, to see how well you can do this and what else can you do, or what is missing in your pricing strategy. With that said, you know what? I truly believe in you as a business owner. You've come this far running your business, and you know when you hear the right thing. So I'm counting on you to do the right thing. With that said, don't forget to come hang out with us on Clubhouse, where we are doing everything we can to help people as entrepreneurs, and also for my upcoming training programs where I'm helping people learn how to start, scale, and monetize their podcasts. I want to show you how I'm doing right now, because it's no accident that our podcast currently is ranked among the top 3% of the most popular podcasts in the world, not just in one section, but in the world. And we are competing against over 2.2 million podcasts in the world. Again, I want you to learn that. And if you're one of my listeners, you have a backdoor to that. And I'm going to share that with you when you come to the Clubhouse. How cool is that? I'm leading you.
That's amazing.
Well, Janene, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You've been wonderful, and thank you for your generosity with your knowledge.
My pleasure. My pleasure to be here. And remember, pricing really is fun.
Yes. Incredible. Well, we want to wish you, Janene, success in your next endeavor. And we certainly would love to have you back on the show, really help people wherever they are right now, even if it's not pricing, because I know you've got some other cool things going on there. I would love to talk about them as well in the future. Thank you. All right, guys, you take care now and live well, live with passion. Know that whatever you set your mind to do, you can make it happen. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. It's more powerful, and you can achieve your goals faster when you do it with others. Remember, we always say, environment is stronger than willpower. You want to put yourself in the environment with the right people. And guess what? That's people around here. All right, take care, guys. I'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye for now. Bye, Janene.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18, or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.